Hi everyone and welcome to Nestle's Live Well podcast season 2.
All right.
So my name is Josanne Singh and I am the nutrition, health and wellness analyst here at Nestle. And in this season we hope to bring you some thought-provoking discussions where we discuss everything from nutrition to fitness, mental health and even self-care. So come along with us as we take this deep dive into health, wellness and everything in between. So today we are going to be talking about relationships and more specifically red and green flags in relationships. So today, just to introduce the panel, we have Dr. Fabienne Blake and she is a clinical psychologist. We also have with us my manager. So if you find I'm looking a bit stiff, you know why. I have City Jones-Gordon here with us and she's the head of corporate communications at Nestle. So
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So like you said, I'm Dr. Fabienne Blake. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and I have a private practice where I work with, I do therapy for children, adults and couples.
Welcome.
Thank you.
City.
Hi everyone. I'm City Jones-Gordon and I'm the head of communications, as Josanne said. And I don't know why she said that just now because I am super relaxed.
Okay, so thank you both for being here today to discuss this very important topic. I know we're laughing, but it's I think it's something that we need to continuously speak about. Yes, we probably hear about it in passing or when you watch TV shows, but sometimes, you don't really think about it thoroughly and apply it to yourselves and your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Fabi, in terms of red and green flags, how do we define it? Like, is it black and white? How do we know what is a red flag versus a green flag?
I mean, a red and green flags is just a nice, easy way to kind of discern, find a way to discern and label things that are behaviors and feelings that are going to work for you in relationships and behaviors and feelings that are not going to work for you in relationships.
Okay.
So the red flags don't work for us. They don't contribute to living well. They don't contribute to you functioning in society. They don't contribute to you feeling good about yourself or about the other person that you're with. And then green flags are feel like you feel good, you feel connected, you feel like you could go out in the world. Green flags are those signs. You could wave a green flag when you're able to go out into the world and do things because your relationship feels so sort of nurturing and warm.
Okay, nice. So feel good, green, don't feel so good, more on the red side.
Yeah, and they're just signs. So yeah.
Okay, good. So let's get into it.
Okay.
So red flags, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a friend.
Okay.
We're going to call this friend Josh.
Okay.
So let's say Josh has a best friend. The best friend is a female.
Right.
Josh starts to date a new person. You're accustomed to seeing Josh every weekend. You're going out and liming, you're hiking every weekend. You and Josh, cool.
Yeah.
But suddenly you're inviting Josh out and Josh making up excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Josh can't go with you next weekend. Josh vehicle not working. Or it's like continuous excuses for Josh not to see you.
Right.
Red flag or green flag, City?
So this is a red flag for the friend or a red flag for the girlfriend?
Be the girlfriend. Do you think Josh having a best friend as a female and they're seeing each other all the time? City, no.
Sorry. What's your answer?
The relationship is completely platonic.
Mm-hmm.
And
So then why is Josh always why is Josh feeling so, split about where he can put his attention?
I don't think Josh is feeling split. I think Josh is more trying to be respectful of the person he's dating, their wishes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he thinks anything is going wrong.
Okay. So you think that Josh should be able to have his relationship with his girlfriend and maintain his relationship with his best friend, doing all the things he used to do before?
Correct.
Okay.
If you're now coming into the scene and Josh already has this established friendship with this person and nothing is going on.
Let's ask Dr.
I feel
Fabi.
like this is the quintessential. This is so, very such a Caribbean. This is very relevant and hopefully it resonates with a lot of people. So as the girlfriend in the relationship,
Right.
I think it's not that Josh going out and having a good time and living his life in the way that he used to. That's not really the red flag. I think the red flag here is the lack of transparency. Like, why isn't there clear communication about, where you're going? When can I expect to see you? And then there's the dishonesty. It sounds like maybe Josh is, making many promises to be out and to be, spend intimate time with the girlfriend and not doing that. So he's not being honest.
Okay, let me add another twist.
All right, okay.
So, the best friend is inviting Josh and the partner out with them, but the partner still does not wish to, come in that setting.
Right. Well, best friends are great. Best friends can, City's has been a best friend to me for a long time. However, that relationship is not going to, I'm not going to share bills with City. I'm not going to buy a house with City eventually. That's not the goal of the relationship. The goal of the relationship is support and friendship and, mentorship to some extent. But the goal of a romantic relationship is usually very long term.
Right.
And it could, so people are you're going in there seriously. Like you need to spend time talking and negotiating how you want to live, if this is a relationship that will serve you in the long run. So you want to spend time, and you can't spend that time in the relationship building it if you are with your friends,
three of you,
all the time.
I understand and respect your point.
Your friend is a third wheel in every situation in the car.
Let me add another twist.
All right.
Wow, this story has a lot of twists. I feel like we going towards.
Yeah, I feel like the best friend has a big advocate in you.
We're not calling names. What if it continuously happens and you find over a period of time, no one sees that friend anymore. That friend only spends time with that significant other. And I'm not talking now just the best friend who is a female, I'm talking all the friends in general.
Right.
City, is that still a red flag in terms of...
Well, in my view, it's so important to maintain your identity even while you're in a relationship. So if you're going to that extreme where the person, and sometimes that happens when relationships are new, it happens when people want to spend all their time together only. But eventually, we usually come down to earth and we realize we want... we usually come down to earth and we realize, hey, I have other friends, I have other interests. Probably the person that you're with doesn't share all of the same interests. So you do need to spend time with your friends and nurture those other sides of your life. So if your partner isn't supporting that specific part, Josa, I would say it's a red flag.
Yeah, we have a win, guys. Dr. Fabi, how do you feel about that in terms of the complete isolation? Is that like a clear-cut red flag at that point?
Yeah, complete isolation. If you're finding yourself in a relationship where you can't see your friends, maybe that person has put up boundaries, they fuss, there's a lot of fuss or a lot of conflict if you're trying to see your friends and or to do the things you love to do. Even if you're finding that there are new boundaries set up and you can't, then that's a red flag. Yeah, because being isolated from your friends and family is not healthy. It doesn't contribute to you feeling connected and whole and like a full individual. So if your partner's contributing to that, then that's something that definitely needs a lot of discussion, or you need to separate, or you need to consider what your boundaries are.
So would you say that you go through until you reach complete isolation, or how do you even recognize that this is going towards the path of being complete isolation at that point? Do you just wait, or
usually if it's going to that extreme, there'll be other signs there's criticism that usually comes along with it, because the partner who is isolating the other person will criticize them as they try to go out and do things, or there's contempt, and then you try to avoid the contempt, you try to avoid the side eye and the glance and the voice raising and the snide comments. You're trying to avoid it so you don't go out, because oh God, I can't deal with, I can't deal when he gets one, so now I can't deal when she gets one like that. I ain't able. So you'll try to avoid going out or going to the gym or going to do all the things that you're accustomed to doing. Sometimes there's defensiveness, you try to bring it up, I find you seem like you want to, it feels like I'm isolated. Why is it like this? And they'll get defensive. Well, it's your fault, So that those usually go along. Extreme isolation has way more going on than just the isolation.
So there are other red flags present with it.
Yeah, there'll be other red flags present with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Parry, for clarifying that. City, do you have any scenarios that you would like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think something that's really common and is difficult for a lot of women and men to talk about now in relationships is who makes money and how do we spend that money. It's really sensitive in many relationships. So for me, I would like to discuss red flag or green flag if your partner insists on doing everything 50-50.
The feminist in me wants to say green flag, but also I feel like in relationships it can never be 50-50. At some point you might have to pull a weight more than the other person. So I would, in this scenario, City, like completely there's no budget at all, 50-50 for everything.
Yeah, so even you guys go out to restaurants to get something to eat and the bill comes and the person is insisting 50-50 and you're in a relationship 50-50, or you're going on a vacation 50-50, everything 50, and if they have to do any more, it's a problem. They're not asking you to do more than 50, but you have to do your part.
I'm sorry. That's going to be a red flag for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of women would be happy to have somebody that they could go 50-50 with, but I don't know how many women would appreciate it being insisted on from men, and vice versa. Like a man would he appreciate a woman insisting that he contribute at least 50%? What do you think, Dr. Fabi?
I think that's a tricky one, actually. I mean, what sort of lingers with me is that the rigidity to do 50-50. Because rigidity in any relationship with two people is not a good thing. Cognitive flexibility, like being able to flex yourself, understand the other person, be curious about how they're feeling, and then adjust to suit and compromise and negotiate. That's actually really important in any relationship. Friendship, romantic relationship, but of course we're talking about romantic relationship.
Yeah.
So the rigidity is the thing that is like a solid red flag. And cannot work.
Yeah.
But then the 50-50, whether, like, I mean, that kind of gets into gender roles too. Like, and who we talking about? It depends on the kind of couple we're talking about, right? Because there's diversity in the types of couples that exist.
Right.
So, but gender roles still come into play. So, yeah, I think you have to consider your values and, the gender roles that you walk in with and the gender roles that your society, wherever you are, sort of is encouraging you to live, and then how you feel, how you as a couple, you as the individual, and then you as a couple feel about those gender roles, and whether you're going to be rigid about it, or whether you can be more flexible and then negotiate how you want it to be. And then 50-50 is tricky. And I mean, if you're making the same amount of money, maybe, but if one person is far, their income far outweighs the other person, then that's not equitable.
Yes.
So you might want to, find some way to allow that person to feel like they can take care of you financially. So you don't want to disempower anybody, but also have it be equitable so that, maybe the person who makes more can pay a little bit more sometimes.
I think this is always an interesting topic for me, because a lot of women these days make more money than our mothers, our grandmothers did in the past. And with that comes a whole new set of behaviors, awareness, in order to maintain a successful relationship. So with this switch in, let's say, the balance of income coming into the home, whether it's a same-sex or heterosexual relationship, as you said, gender roles, how do you see, what behaviors do you think are useful for ensuring that both partners feel equally valued?
Yeah, you have to talk.
Sounds simple.
I know it sounds really simple, but the conversation has to be. But besides the conversation, because you could be having a conversation and it's just, it's conflictual and it's not okay.
Yeah.
But really, what you want to have is curiosity.
Yeah.
In conversation, each person is curious about the other's experience and about the other person's position and the other person's feeling. Like, how are you feeling as we're talking about this? What do you mean when you say 50-50, where, how, like, being able, that the other person has to be able to express that curiosity about your position, and then you both have to stay calm. So that's emotion regulation.
Yes.
You both have to manage your own, your own emotional activity, right? And your whole, it's not just emotional, it's like physical, it's physiological.
Yes.
There's a whole thing happening in your body when you're having a conversation. You have to be able to manage that as you seek understanding, as you try to understand the other person's point of view. So the conversation is like it could be really deep. You also have to try and, like, as that person explains to you their position and why they feel the way they do, why they feel like 50-50 might work, you want to be able to, sort of comfort them, validate them, and then express how you feel, and then what you're thinking.
Not mama guy, but validate.
Validate, not
Okay.
mama guy. Mama guy is actually could be contempt.
Yes.
So mama guy, and I mean, is a thing that we talk about all the time. It's, we love it in a popular Caribbean culture, but you want to be able to validate the other person's experience, and that will make you feel more connected, and then you could go into those situations, the vacation, the restaurant, wherever it is, the movies, or buying a house, and actually negotiate and have a proper conversation that brings you a little bit closer together.
Right.
So whether you do 50-50 is kind of irrelevant to me. It's what's happening below the 50-50 that I care about.
That's very deep. Absolutely. No, like that is very profound.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like that now that you mentioned the emotional regulation part. Let's say you're in a relationship and you're having a conversation about the same 50-50 conversation.
Yeah.
What if your partner, it gets heated, I cannot be spending $10,000 on the mortgage, right? You're spending like $5,000, right? And that person raises their voice. Just in that moment, it never happened before, they raise their voice in that scenario. Red flag or green flag?
They were the first one to raise their voice.
Yes.
And the other person was very calm.
Yes.
In that scenario, I would say it's a red flag.
A red flag.
But it's more of a red flag for me to be mindful that the person is getting upset.
Okay. In that scenario, it's a red flag. They apologize after. Would you change the flag?
Yes.
Okay, so the flag
For
is
me,
now-
it's a green flag.
So the flag is
Yes.
now green. They acknowledge what they did. They apologize. But you're having a conversation again weekend. It's another topic and it gets a bit heated again. They raise their voice at you again. Or they might use a word or two that you don't like use in a conversation. Is it still... And they apologize after. Again. Red flag or green flag? No.
Both.
I'm
I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a warning.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
like,
Okay, fair need to add another twist then.
Okay, all right.
So it keeps happening. You keep getting the raised voice. You keep getting the not so kind words. They apologize after every single argument. Would that still be a green flag?
I will say what I think, but I would let Dr. Fabi answer most likely what will be much more profound.
Okay.
So for me, in the Caribbean environment, we speak loudly. We tend to raise our voices. I can only speak about the Caribbean because it's where I grew up, is what I know.
Right.
And so you kind of have to know your audience as well. But you have to be very, I think, aware of what you're willing to tolerate. Because for me, somebody shouting at me
Right.
is not appropriate, especially if it's another adult. If it's a child throwing a tantrum, we could deal with that.
different.
But as an adult shouting, and not once, but more than once, for me is, unless there's some nuance that I'm not aware of, it's going to be difficult to accept it over time.
Okay.
I don't know. I know that's not the best answer, but
No, but that's how you feel.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking. That's
Me, no judgment. Once you use a certain tone with me, I am going to shut down. I don't want to carry on that conversation anymore. So for me, not even a shouting, but as soon as you change your tone of voice,
red flag.
I'm sorry. That's my personal boundary. I
Yeah.
think that's something I could work through and let that happen like multiple times. That's just from the
Green flag, Josanne. That's all. No, I'm so proud of you. Just to hear you say it.
So no, I'm serious. Like that is just like a boundary for me that I strongly believe should never be crossed. So Dr. Fabi, what is your take on it?
I think it makes sense that it's a boundary for you. I feel like that's a good place to maybe start. Like the fact that it's a boundary for you. We walk into romantic relationships with a lot. We walk in with our own personal history, and a lot of that is childhood history. There are lots of theories about romantic relationships that talk about the importance of the relationships that you build when you're like an infant, and when you're going through your childhood, the relationships that you build with your caregivers, and that the relationships that they maintain with you, because they have a lot of power in those relationships. Those kind of dictate how you manage your relationships later on. So you might have had experiences, and you might have a great childhood, but you still had experiences that were scary, and so your whole body reacts when somebody raises their voice. And if you know that's how you are, then it's great that you could say that out loud. You could describe it. You know when it's happening, and then you could say that this is my boundary. And I can't really, this is a red flag for me, and I cannot engage if that is where if you can't help but go there.
You put it so nicely, because that's exactly what it is for me. And at the beginning of any relationship, I always state that one thing I will not tolerate is raising voice or speaking, like using any words that are not kind towards the other person. Definitely no tolerance for that. And I guess it will be different for other people. As you say, we bring a lot into our relationships, but for me personally, that's just my boundary.
That honestly makes me feel so good to hear you say that, because I feel like it takes thought and time and bravery to be able to say, this is what I want, I know who I am, and this is what I'm willing to tolerate, and then to say it to the person that you're contemplating having a relationship with, or that you're in a relationship with. Because a lot of times we feel scared to say our boundaries.
To lose the relationship, you don't
because you don't want the person to feel like, oh gosh, well, it's so much pressure to be with you,
Yeah.
But whether you're a man or a woman, to know what works for you and to be able to say it, whatever the consequences, and to stand by it. I really respect that, Josanne.
Thank you. City, do you have another scenario for us? Or?
Yeah, girl, I have lots of scenarios, Okay.
Well, wait. I feel like we should probably just go back a little bit. Like,
okay, sure.
Shouting, whether it's, because we talked about how your personal boundary, and that's great. And I think that highlights the need for you to kind of know yourself. And if you need professional help to like understand your boundaries and what triggers you, then we should encourage the audience to get that.
Yes.
But in terms of shouting by itself, I mean, I hate to complicate these things, but shouting by itself it could be a red flag. It depends on the shouting. I mean, especially if there's contempt in there, so they're not just shouting, but shouting and saying mean things, or saying things that they know will upset you. If it happens once, then maybe you could, because repair is an important part of a good, healthy, secure relationship. So if there's an argument, and the argument gets a little bit heated, not if it is threatening your safety, that's a whole other issue. But if the argument gets a little bit heated and everybody's sort of emotionally dysregulated, then you do have the opportunity to stop, pull away, and repair. And how you repair is really important. Like the apology is important. Because an apology is not just an apology is, are you understanding and accounting for your part in that person's feelings? And do you care that they feel, do you care about how they feel? Do you care that they feel good, right? Do you care enough to want them to feel better in the relationship with you? So an apology involves kind of all of that. And then the apology is not an apology unless there is a plan of action for something different to happen the next time.
I like that.
Yeah, so the fact that you said it kept happening and the person kept apologizing, then that's not an apology.
So there should be actionable steps.
Yeah, you have to be actionable steps. There has to be a decrease in the behavior that is not desirable, or some kind of effort over time that to show that the person actually cares about how you feel. Yeah, like if somebody was shouting at you, especially if you stated that that's a boundary, and then they kept doing it, then they don't care about how you feel. They don't care about how your feeling of safety and concern.
Correct. Yeah, no, for real. And I think it's something that when we say what our boundary is and the person crosses the line, then it becomes easier to know whether or not this relationship is going to work or not. You know, so I guess the main lesson, yes, it's always harder than it sounds, but the main lesson is you need to say your boundaries.
Yeah.
You need to let them be known so that the person knows if it's something they can work with, and you know if it's something you're willing to compromise.
Sometimes you're learning your boundaries. You know, everybody doesn't come into the relationship with all of the knowledge about yourself.
Correct.
Sometimes a nice relationship will make you learn about yourself because that person is so curious about you.
That's such a cute.
I love that.
And the person is so curious and they express their curiosity about you and your feelings and your, you know, like what you're doing and why you want to do it this way and how what if you did this, and they're so curious that it forces you to sort of explain or like demonstrate how you feel, and then you're like, oh,
this is me.
Okay, and it's affirming, like, you know, so that you could learn yourself in a relationship, in a nice, safe relationship where there's connection and validation and, you know, all of the warm, fuzzy stuff. You could learn yourself. And if you have trouble doing that, then a professional is a good place to go.
So, Siti, do you have another scenario for us?
Yes, so I think something that a lot of couples or people who are seeking a relationship get into is making lists about what they expect from the other person. Just like a list of boundaries, just like a checklist.
List.
Like, I expect you, if I'm looking for a partner, I expect him to make X amount of money. I expect him to, you know, drive a certain type of car. It might be a little more, you know, it might be a little deeper. I expect him to be a certain religion or have a certain height, weight, eye color. Is that a red flag or a green flag? So you meet this person and, you know, the person seems pretty nice, and then they say, look, for us to get together, for a wife, you need to I need you to cook for me, you need to make breakfast and lunch. That's how I feel loved. That's just that person's list. It might be something else. You need to make sure you go to the gym 3 times a week. You need to make sure, you know, I want your hair and your nails done, or I hate makeup, I don't want you wearing makeup. Whatever his list is.
Am I going to be a kept woman?
Maybe, but he or she, they have a list. So red flag or green flag?
For me, that's a red flag.
Why?
What is a red flag? What's red about it for
you?
you?
Have a list of a criteria that I need to fit into. I am my own person, and if this is what I bring to the table, it better be enough. It has to be enough.
Yeah.
Why should I be forced to change my identity or who I am to fit into your life? Then you should find someone with that criteria already, as opposed to me fitting myself into yours. So,
I don't know, because Dr. Pavi, tell me what you think. I feel like what happens is I think it's fair to want certain things from your partner. But at the same time, obviously, you can't be ridiculous. But everybody has their own list. I might think your list is ridiculous, but for you, it's a real list.
Right.
So, I don't know. I feel like you need to have, is not having a list meaning not having standards, or you should have a list because that means that you know what you want and you have standards.
Yeah, the listing is tricky because you want to have standards, and you want to also you want to be in like date and be in relationships with people who understand your values, who have like, you know, the raw material to understand your values. So I mean, a list might not be bad, but is the lack of flexibility with a list. So if you meet someone who's amazing and they're not meeting the list, maybe they, you know, the list that you just talked about had like, you know, some high
you go to the
salary,
gym, high salary,
right? Like maybe they don't meet all those things, but in the relationship you feel warm and connected and validated and seen, and they also feel the same way. Then maybe you could flex the list, you know, a little bit and see because the most important thing on your list should be, I want to find a partner who I can live my life with and they make my life better and I make their lives better, and we could live, we're able to negotiate and sort of move down the road together, you know, and it's to live well, right? That's the whole theme here. So that should be the top of the list, how you feel.
So in other words, a partner, if I want a healthy life, I need a healthy relationship, right? And
you don't need it, but it's nice.
It's good. It contributes to me having a healthy life.
Yes.
So rather than an unhealthy relationship,
Yeah.
So if I have a healthy relationship, you said something really interesting earlier. You said, a partner who is a good relationship will actually help you to learn yourself and love yourself more. So what do you think then should someone be looking for, or do you think it's fair, I should say, for someone to say that they're looking for things that are both material and intrinsic?
I mean, sometimes the things that are material are valuable to you, and that's okay. Like, nothing wrong with your list, you can have your list, but there could be some flexibility in the list, so that you could find a partner, and also so that your feelings, because you might find the person with all the things on the list, but they make you feel really sad, or really anxious, like they have you and you're in fight or flight all the time, or you're freezing all the time, so that the list is irrelevant at that point. Like, you need to find somebody who makes you feel good. So connection, comfort, validation, and living well, like in the relationship, those are the things that are important at all times.
I like that. So Dr. Fabi, we've spoken quite a bit about all the different red flags.
Yeah.
How do we know when to walk away or to work through them? Or is it that all red flags can now flip into a green flag?
Yeah, how do we know to work through? Well, how you're feeling is important. First of all, if your safety is threatened, you need to do what you must to ensure your safety. So if that is like, you need to get professional help to be safe, or corral all your friends and family so that you could get away from whoever is keeping you unsafe, then that's what you need to do. But besides that,
right.
You want to see how you feel and how is it affecting your. If you find that you're in a relationship and suddenly you're missing work, or you're missing school a little bit more or your grades have slipped, or your relationships with other people who your friends and your family, they kind of struggling, then that relationship is affecting your functioning, and you really need to think about whether you need to be in it or not.
So it's not as clear cut in terms of...
It's not always clear cut, because sometimes a relationship can really be healing, and I don't want to be, being non-judgmental is a big part of my profession, right? So just because somebody engages in unhealthy behavior at one point doesn't mean that they will 10 years later or 5 years later. A relationship can help them. So I don't want to judge, there's flexibility in everything, but if it's not working for you, if you're not functioning at least at the same level or better, then you probably need to think about whether you should.
But I need to throw a spoke in the wheel.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about victims of domestic violence,
right,
which is obviously an extreme.
Yeah.
Well, it's an extreme, but that happens all the time. So, I find that men and women, actually, because it's both sides, but more women obviously is prevalent. We tend to accept, okay, it's you hit me, or you push me, or you, I don't know, threw my clothes out the window, whatever crazy things people do when they're upset and lose control. We tend to think that, okay, maybe the relationship is healing. They don't say the words the way you said it, but maybe because he's great every other time.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like a one-off. What do you say to those people?
Those are so confusing. Like, could be so confusing for a lot of people, because you have all these green flags, right? Mm-hmm. They warm in the sun, but then as soon as a shadow hit them, they're dark.
Yeah.
So it's confusing, and there's a type. Sometimes people have personalities where that is what they do. That is part of the coercion and the manipulation. Mm-hmm. So that it's warm and somebody he was nice, and he, it's so lovely, it's very friendly. I felt so good for so many days, and then there was this really difficult day, and I'm finding it hard to recover from that, and then the repair doesn't come. The apology is there's no change in the behavior after the apology, or the apology is about them, because an apology could be about the person who's apologizing. Well, I did it because there's a lot of defensiveness in the apology, or over explaining in the apology, and no concern or curiosity about, well, I did this, and how did it make you feel? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to make you feel that way anymore. And I'm sorry, and here's how I'm going to change your behavior. Right?
That storybook thing, or that should really happen, because
No,
I just want to be
happen.
real. Like, it
Yes.
should really happen, right? That's not
Yes.
teasing thing, right?
Yeah, that
so
should
if,
happen.
if a partner isn't doing that, it is a sign that this is unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, all apologies don't need to be perfect, but they need to have some form of those elements in them. An apology is you when you apologize is it's a sign of empathy. Empathy is part of that. So putting yourself in the offended person's shoes, you have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then changing your behavior. Otherwise, you're not apologizing. You just explain it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some practical tips you would give our listeners in terms of navigating through relationships and identifying those red and green flags? Like, what are some takeaways that they could apply to their lives?
I think so. There's a Gottman again into theory here. Okay, so Gottman has like if you Google it, your listeners are obviously on YouTube, so they can Google things, right? So if they Google the 4 horsemen in relationships, it's Gottman theory. Just Gottman 4 horsemen, you'll find it.
Okay.
Then that's a nice quick little guide of what you shouldn't have in relationships that have those features are not going to work very well.
Okay.
So that's a nice do some reading, just do a little bit of research, educate yourself about relationships, and I think that's actually a really good helpful way, because sometimes you don't feel good or you feel really good in a relationship. Either way, but you don't have the words to describe it, and so doing a little bit of reading can help you to describe it. So I would recommend that. Also, if you're unsure and you're really struggling, a professional is a really good place to go.
Yes.
And I feel like with virtual, treatment, you have access to a world of psychologists, not just psychologists in the Caribbean, even though they're always really good. We're good.
I like that you mentioned that, Dr. Fabi, because I think just counseling and therapy on a whole is such a taboo thing in the Caribbean. Especially, I think, with the men, they don't want to accept or acknowledge that they need help and to seek therapy. So I like that you mentioned, it's okay to seek therapy, and it's okay to go to counseling. City, do you have anything for our guests to take away from today's session?
I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot. So thank you very much, Dr. Fabi. And thank you very much, Josanne. I think this was a session that was refreshing, and it's something that we all deal with because we all have experienced or will experience relationships. For me, the most important thing is that we know what our boundaries are. We know it's okay to talk about what's healthy and what's not. And something you said, Dr. Fabi, that stayed with me is that it's okay to grow. So it's okay to not know.
Yes.
You don't have to have all the answers. None of us do.
Right.
So it's okay to talk to other people, but you really need to know your boundaries. And you need to grow to learn it if you don't, so that you're able to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Because if we're relying on TV or social media, where there is a plethora of opinions, and so everybody has an opinion on what works and what doesn't work, but you have to know yourself. And it starts there. What doesn't work ever is abuse. And for anyone that's listening, if you feel like it's abuse, walk away. But other than
Get
that,
help to walk away, because walking away is real hard, especially if you have shared, all the resources that you have are wrapped up in this person. So get
That's
help.
so true.
Yeah, getting professional help is a good way, and I think you guys will probably share some resources.
Definitely.
There you go.
So thank you, City, and thank you, Dr. Fabi. And this
it was
was
a
a
pleasure.
lovely session.
Thank
It was
you.
great having you.
Yes.
And to our guests and our listeners, stay tuned for our next episode, and we're going to continue on this journey where we learn more about ourselves and everything in the health and wellness world. So bye.
Bye, guys.